American and Canadian authorities say they've expanded their search and rescue teams into deeper waters as they race against the clock to find the missing submersible that vanished while taking tourists on a $250,000 trip under the sea to the wreck of the Titanic. And Reuters is learning more about the people aboard the vessel, which authorities say can only operate for about 96 hours underwater. Contact was lost on Sunday, and it's not clear what condition the vessel is in. So who is aboard? One of the missing persons is reportedly Stockton Rush, the founder of a company called OceanGate, which ran the operation. Reuters met Rush in 2017, where he talked about the company. This is what he said at the time.
5 individuals can go on each dive. 3 of those are what we call mission specialists. So those are the folks who help finance the mission, but they're also active participants. So why we're not a fan of the tourist term is because these are crew members, and we teach them how to operate the sonar, how to operate the communication systems. You're part of the crew.
Hamish Harding, a British billionaire, is believed to be aboard and said on social media that he was one of the mission specialists. He lives in Dubai and is the chairman of an aviation consultancy. He's an adventurer. He once accompanied Buzz Aldrin, the former astronaut, on a trip to the South Pole when Aldrin became the oldest person ever to reach the Antarctic. 4 years ago, he was also aboard an aircraft that set a world record for fastest circumnavigation of the Earth over the North and South Pole. Harding is accompanied on the Titanic trip by Shahzada Dawood and Dawood's son, Suleiman. Dawood is an executive at one of Pakistan's largest conglomerates, Engro Corporation, and lives in the UK. But he's also a trustee at the famed SETI Institute, also known as the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence in California. Their website says he's a philanthropist, loves animals, and has a wife and daughter as well.
Je suis Paul-Henri Narjolet.
The vessel's reportedly piloted by Paul-Henri Narjolet, a French explorer and the director of underwater research at a company that owns the wreck of the Titanic. He's a former commander in the French Navy and served as both a diver and minesweeper. He was also on the first recovery expedition to the Titanic in 1987.
Statistically, you've heard about the golden hours, right? So after 24 hours of someone going missing, and that could be everyone from a kidnapping victim to obviously water, you're less than 10% chance of them being found alive. And obviously the longer the time is elapsed, the lower that rate is. Now you can get lucky, of course. People have found the inside a capsized fishing vessel because they're in an air pocket for 3 days. I mean, that's great news, but less likely, and especially with this particular challenging search site, that I guess the chances are less, sadly. It's really difficult in water. I think people underestimate that. And in fact, if you look at murder victims, 3 times as many people get dumped in water than on land. It's actually quite hard to find anything in water. It's you know the quote, don't you, about we know more about the moon surface than the bottom of the ocean because we just haven't surveyed it. So that's a big issue. You'd hopefully, best case scenario, it's going up and down, had an electrical problem, and is sort of drifting up with their automatic sort of rescue operation. So that's sort of best case, which we should probably focus on. But so with the time running out and being several days now, that's not a good sign.
Titanic's wreck is 2.5 miles down. It's pitch black down there. It's freezing cold. The seabed is mud and it's undulating. You can't see your hand in front of your face. The only way you can find where you are is by a thing called sonar. Not even radar works. They can't have a line tethering it all the way down because it would be too heavy and too much drag. So it's really a bit like a moonshot. It's really a bit like being an astronaut going into space. So I do fear for the lives of those explorers who are on board, because it seems to me that unless they can get the sub to the surface, and unless they're then lucky enough that within the time frame of the air that's left, unless they can get a helicopter to spot that sub in time, I think if it's on the seabed, There are so few submarines that are capable of going that deep. And so therefore, I think it was going to be almost impossible to effect a sub-to-sub rescue. That you have to sign your life away, as it were, before you actually go down in one of these. But I feel very sorry for all the people involved, including OceanGate and all of the crew, because of course you don't expect it's going to be you. You think it's going to be okay, and we're still hoping and praying that those people are going to be all right. I think if it could be found on the surface, then there's a chance that someone could get to the vessel in time to unbolt the sides to actually allow air into the cabin. But I think if it's tangled in the wreck, or if, for example, the weights were not able to jettison the ballast and therefore it was not able to rise under its own propulsion of air, I think that we would be looking at not a rescue of living souls.
They were descending when the whatever happened. That's when they lost communications with it. And the layest news, literally just in the last hour or so, is that another commercial vessel, a very, very capable pipe-laying vessel, modern ship with ROV capabilities, is actually over the site now. And we're just hoping that it has the capabilities to reach those kind of depths, 3,800 meters, search for the submersible and have the ability to recover it. And you know, there is some hope that that could happen. And if they're alive in the sub, and that could be done in the next day or two, well then, you know, we could have a happy outcome to this thing, which from the outset was very, very worrying.
They're in a difficult situation though, aren't they?
Yeah. There's very few assets that can reach this kind of depth. This is ultra deep water. Most of the oil industry sort of gets to about 3,000 meters, and 4,000 meters is another threshold. And then you get into the what we call ultra deep capabilities. And so you have to rely on the good fortune of having a ship with an ROV that depth capable nearby that can actually affect the rescue. And all that we can hope is that this ship, the Deep Energy, which is on site now, can do that.
Hello, you're squeaking too.